Okay, we are going to learn how to bind off and knit using the Continental method for the bind off section of our baby booty pattern. For the bind off section at the bottom, it says bind off 10 doing newborn stitches at the beginning of the next row and then finish the row. Finish the row means that we knit the last part of the row. We bind off the first 10 stitches. Okay. Now what I'm going to show you is how to bind off using the Continental method. I've already started a row here. Actually, this is supposed to go on this needle. So I've already bound off one stitch right here. I'm going to put and before the video is over, the second reason I made this video was to show you how you can also bind off with using the English method. And I will show you what the English method looks like. Continental method, of course, we hold our yarn in the left hand and we basically pick up the yarn and pull it through the stitch whenever we knit. So binding off basically means you're getting rid of some stitches. 10 stitches total according to our pattern. We've just bound off one stitch here, but you have to knit to be able to bind off. So I'm going to knit a second stitch. You always start with 2 stitches. And then I will pull, you always pull the bottom stitch over the top stitch that's on the right hand needle, and you pull it over, and I bound off 2 stitches. And I started at the top of my row on the left hand side, just like normal when you're knitting. Okay, but for casting off, you always knit 2 stitches first, and you always pull the back stitch or the bottom stitch over the top stitch in order to bind off each stitch. All right, so here I am binding off another stitch. How many do I have now? Let's look to make sure. I think I have 3. Okay, there's 1, 2, 3. Okay, I need 10. So I've got to knit another stitch to get 2 stitches on the right side. And I'm be binding off my 4th stitch. And I'm going to knit another stitch to bind off my 5th stitch. Okay, need 5 more. 6. 7. This is going to be 7. 8. 9. 1 more. Then knit another stitch to get 2 stitches on the right hand needle. And this will be our 10th bound off stitch. If you want to double check, make sure you did enough. You can count on the top of your work and look for the little V's. There's 1 V, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There it is, 9, 10. So I bound off 10 stitches. Then it says to continue the row, to continue knitting. So we'll knit down the row all the way to the end. That's what our pattern is calling for. We're making the T shape for the baby booties. So I'll just keep knitting. And I'm using Continental style to knit. Okay, just for the sake of time, I'm going to convert over to the English method of knitting, where I'm not picking, but rather I'm wrapping to make my stitches, just so you can see that there's not much of a difference, only in where you hold your yarn. So pull a little more yarn off the skein. All right, I'm going to convert over to English, pretend my left hand's getting a little tired. I just want to do something different. English method is simply holding your working yarn in the right hand, still going over that index finger, using these two fingers to help control your tension, still going in underneath the top stitch, and this time you're wrapping it around the needle. You're still pulling it through, you're still pulling it off. Okay, English method, if you're trying it, is to put your needle underneath, just like you did in Continental, but this time you wrap it around from the right side. You wrap your yarn around this needle, and you pull it through just like you did the Continental, and you pull it off just like you did for the Continental. I'll do a couple more for you. Okay, I am knitting to the end of my row, wrapping around using the English method, pulling up. You notice I'm leaving it kind of loose. Don't want it too tight. Going to the end of the row. Okay, I'm also going to show you what it looks like when you bind off using the English method. And you can decide if you're going to keep knitting in English or Continental or both, as I do. That's up to you. I've just started using the Continental style of knitting, and I'm still learning just like you. Okay, here is the end of the row. Now, the rest of our pattern says bind off 10 stitches at the beginning of the next row. This leaves you with 6 stitches in the middle. Okay, so now I'm going to bind off using the English method. I'm going to bind off the 10 stitches. It's going to look pretty much like what I was doing with the Continental style. Again, the only difference is going to be having the yarn in the right hand and wrapping the yarn around the left needle rather than picking the yarn up with the right hand needle. Okay, here it goes in. We're going to bind off 10 stitches. Okay, using the English method. So I've got to knit 2 on here first. You always knit first and then you bind off. So you always want to have 2 stitches on the right hand needle when you're binding off. You always want to pull that bottom stitch over the top stitch after you've knitted 2. Okay, I've bound off 1 stitch. Gotta knit another one so I can bind off another. Let's see, okay. Well, okay, there it goes. 2. Okay, I'm going to knit another one as if to knit. And so we have 2. And see, it's the same procedure, taking the bottom stitch, pulling it over the top stitch. Okay, how many do I have now? 1, 2, 3 V's, or 3 stitches that indicate a stitch. Each V indicates a stitch. And I'm going with 4. I'm going to go to 10 so I can show you where we're at in the pattern. This is going to be 5. 6. This will be 6. 7. 8. Nine. This will be 9. And then 10. And then I'm going to go back and count, make sure I got 10 stitches, not too many, or not enough. Make sure we've got 10 V's. Okay, 1. Where's the 1? 1. I think we got 1 here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, 10. And then our instructions told us we should have 6 stitches left. There's 3, 2, 4, 6. We may have not quite done 10. So 2, 4, 6. That means I need to bind off 1 more. Didn't quite count it right. Okay, now I should have 6 stitches. 2, 4, 5, 6. And it says to knit. Our pattern says to knit the remaining garter stitch remaining stitches, or knit, for 10 rows and then bind off. So now we're going to knit. This will be row 1, and then I'm about to finish row 1, so you can see what that looks like. Get some more yarn. Okay. Okay, row 1 of the T that we're making is complete. We have row 1. We'll make 9 more rows. You can see. Let me turn my needle around so you can see them. I have to go to the left-hand side again to keep knitting. Do that for English or Continental knitting. You see we have the top part of our T. Now we'll be making rows going this way, 10 of them total, to form the bottom part of the T. Okay, therein is our lesson about continental knitting versus English knitting and binding off in the middle of a knitted piece.